Hi there, I'm Chris from Game Tester. In this video, I'll show you how to get started and set up your account once you've registered on our platform. We'll firstly ask you for some information about your studio, including your address, some branding images, and you can invite additional users here by clicking here and entering their email. This means you can all share the same platform and use the account together. Once that's out of the way, you're ready to start testing, and you can do that by clicking here. Next, we'll enter a name for the test, click OK, and this will take you through to our test setup wizard. So here we've got a step-by-step process that you can work your way through one at a time until you get to the summary where you can review your test, check you're happy with it before submitting. So the first step is to check your test name and that you're happy with it. Be aware that this is the name that's shown to testers, so it will be visible to them. The next step is selecting the type of test that you would like to run. So there's three main types of tests here that you can select. The first one being gameplay tests. So if you have any interactive elements that you would like them to try and play and give feedback on, then you can select this option. Non-gameplay test is more, it's still about a game or a project, but you just don't have any interactive playable elements at this stage. So it's useful for asking for feedback on things like concepts, designs, images, videos, audio, anything like that. There's just no interactive elements. And then market research is more broad. You're not specifically asking about a game or project. You more just want to ask questions to a gaming audience, their opinions or thoughts on things. So you select which one of these that you would like to test. If you select gameplay test, then you'll see an option for the API. So if we go over to that, this is basically asking if you would like to integrate our API into your game or not, which is an optional step, but it does allow you to track what players are doing in your game, the actions that they are triggering, things they are doing, and it allows you to see, how players are interacting with your content. So at this step, you're just selecting whether you want to integrate it or not, and you can come back to this option and change your mind if you wish. There's also some guides here, video guide and documentation to guide you through that process and let you know how to set it up. Generally, it only takes a couple of hours to do, but it's up to you at this stage. If you don't wish to integrate, then you just select this option here. Next, you select the game that you would like to test. So there's a couple of options here. If we go into one of these, you can see the kind of information we'd ask for. It's basically a game profile, a short description on the game, system requirements to run it, some screenshots, the genres and platforms that the game is on. So this is basically a preview of your test that testers will see when they're deciding whether or not to accept your test or not. And every tester is optional. It's not mandatory to accept a test. So we want testers that see a game that they like, that they're engaged with, they're interested in, and accept those tests. So this allows them to kind of see what they're getting into. This step is letting testers know how confidential your test and game is. So depending on the stage of development it's in, you may select one of these options. So the first one is strictly confidential. So by selecting this option, you'll be able to see a message that we show to testers here that makes it really clear that this information is not to be shared anywhere outside of the platform, and that they're legally bound to the agreement and NDA that we link to on this section here. So we have our own NDA, which you can use by default, or if you wish, you can upload your own NDA here, or provide a link here, which will link through from this button here. So it makes it really clear they have to accept this before they accept the test, and they're allowed access to any of your files. However, you may, as development continues and the game gets close to launch, you may wish to let testers know, hey, we're happy for you to talk about our game and share it on social media, and you could select this option here. And this lets testers know that you're happy for them to do these things. You can edit this text, so if you want to be a bit more specific, then you can do so. And we also have a kind of middle option, so you may be happy for testers to do some things, but not others. And here you can just make that really clear. So this is just all helping the testers. We have a lot of gamers and a lot of streamers on our platform, where when they're allowed to share content, then it's great to let them know that we're happy for them to do that. But obviously, in most cases, they're not able to share, so we're just making that really clear and enforcing that message on this step here. So next you've got the test description. So this is just to offer some general guidance on what you would like testers to do during the test. If there are any areas you'd like them to specifically focus on, maybe you've just added a new tutorial, for example, and you would like testers not to skip that and actually do the tutorial so they can give you feedback. It might just be some heads up on the type of questions that you're going to ask them later so they know what to take notes of and pay attention to. So something doesn't need to be too long, pretty simple and straightforward like that. Next, you've got the requirements. So this is basically how do testers finish the test? What's the kind of end goal that they're aiming for? Now that could just be play for 2 hours, for example, and then provide your general feedback at the end. Or you could make it action based. So please get to the end of level 3, kill the final boss, and then come and complete your feedback. So how you define the end of the test is up to you. You then select how long the test is, and this can just be an average. If it's get to the end of level 3, that might take some people an hour, but some people slightly longer, some people slightly less. So it doesn't need to be exact, just an average amount. You then got the test size, so this is how many testers you'd like to book. So you can just type in any number here at this stage. And then you'll only see this option if this is your second or third test. Basically, this is giving you the option to re-invite previous testers that have took part in one of your previous tests if you would like. Or on the flip side, you can completely exclude those testers. So you may want fresh eyes for this round of testing, and so we can just say we only want new testers this time. If you select any of these, you can even select specific tests that you would like to re-invite people from. So you've got full control over who comes back for second rounds of testing. If you don't have a preference, then you can just select that. Next, you've got the demographics. So this is effectively who is going to be invited to do your test. Now you can just select pick for me. That means it's a global test, potentially open to anyone, and we'll select the most relevant testers. But generally, it's pretty broad. If you would like to filter it down and narrow exactly who you can do your test, then you just click here, and you'll be given some options when you create a new filter here. You can see you can include testers from specific countries. You can add entire regions if you wish. You can remove specific countries if you don't want them included. So you've got complete control over where the testers are from. You can then add a minimum age, maximum age. You can add a gender. You can add anything from their tester profile that we know about our testers. So that includes the languages that they can speak. It includes the type of gamer that they are. It includes their gaming preferences, how many hours do they game per week typically, and even their internet speed, which can be useful for kind of multiplayer and high-speed stress testing, things like that. You may need to limit who can do the test. You can then filter by hardware device, so this is the device they have to game on. So if it was a PC test, we'd select PC, for example. You can edit any previous tester options here. And then lastly, you can also filter by genre interest. So our testers tell us the type of games that they enjoy and that they like to play when they sign up. And so you can select one of these. You can even open these up into subgenres if you want to be really specific on the type of tester that you'd like to invite. So you can just click one of these, or you can click the whole genre if you wish. Click OK when you've selected everything you wish, and you can just double check here that this is exactly how you want it to be. Now you can divide this up. Say, for example, you wanted it's a 500 users test, and maybe you want 400 from this group, but you also want 100 from the United States, for example. I can just add a new group here. I can click Create New Filter, and I'll just search for the states. Click OK, and then I'll put 100 in here. That will now give you an exact and precise split. You'll get exactly 100 completed tests from the US, and you'd get 400 from this group up here. So how you divide it and split it is completely up to you, and how targeted you are. You can keep it super broad, or you can be super targeted. It's up to you. So after demographics, you're then setting up your questionnaire, and this is effectively what you would like to ask testers once the test is finished. Now, generally we advise multiple choice questions where possible. So if you click add fields up here, you can see there's different types of multiple choice, drop downs and selection boxes. But sometimes you just need to ask open text, what did you think of the game generally? What would you improve? Those types of questions you kind of need open text. So you can select one of these here as well. Once you've selected one, you can edit any of the questions or the answers by clicking on this cog. And you can click here to select whether the question is mandatory or not. So by default, all our questions are mandatory. However, you may have a optional question that won't apply to all testers. So you can just turn this off here and it'll then become optional. You can also split the questionnaire up into steps. So if you had lots of questions, for example, or different categories, you can create different steps, which just breaks it down for testers. You can create new steps here, rename the current one, or delete the current one. So that can also be useful. In this second step here, we've got some open text question, and you'll see in the settings for here, we can also set minimum and maximum character counts. So that can be useful if you're asking open text questions and you want to make sure that testers deliver a minimum amount of feedback. You can set that up here. We also have expandable questions. So this question here, if I switch over to questionnaire view, this shows you how it would look to a tester, how the questionnaire would be presented to them, and we can go through the motions of doing the questionnaire and seeing that it all works correctly. If we go to this next step, we have the open text one, and then we have this expandable question. So this was asking, did you find any bugs in the game? Now, if a tester said no to that, then that's great. We've nothing further to add. But if they answered yes, you may want to ask a follow-up question, such as, "Okay, can you give us some details on the bug you experienced?" So these are expandable questions and will only apply to testers that answer a specific way. You could add additional ones down here. You could even have expandable inside expandable. So how you set up your test and how you structure it is up to you. Next is the dates of the test. So this is when you would like the test to start. If you just want it to start as soon as possible, then you can select today's date. However, you can also pick a date in the future. Generally, we don't need much notice to start a test. 24 hours is normally all we need from submission to actually starting it. So if you submitted a test today, we would likely be able to run it the next day. And a test will generally finish, depending on how many testers you're booking, but anything under 1,000 testers, normally within a couple of days, you'll see the results and you'll see that test come to an end. You can select a specific end date if you have a strict deadline and you need the test absolutely to finish by that date, especially if it's a very big test, in the many thousands, then you can let us know. You can even select a specific time that you want it to end. But generally, that's not needed for most tests. You can just tell us when you want it to start and things will be wrapped up by then. If you need everyone to test at the exact same time, so for example, multiplayer or stress tests, then you can select this option here. Generally, you'll be required to integrate the API for this option so we can track testers and make sure they arrive at the right time, not too early, and that they meet all your requirements. So this will be grayed out unless that option is selected. However, if the API is not an option for you, then please just reach out and ask us that you would like to explore this option. There's normally a way that we can do it. We just need to discuss how that's going to be managed. So once you've selected a date, one of the final steps is distribution. And this is effectively how will testers access your content or files that you would like them to review. So there's a couple of options. You can provide a link for them to download the files themselves, and you just provide some instructions on here on where they need to go. You can upload the game files or assets directly by clicking this link here, and you'll see an option appear down here where you can upload those files. We'll then provide a download link to any testers that accept your test and agree to all your terms. Or finally, you may just want to upload a list of keys, for example, Steam keys, Xbox keys, and we'll issue one of those out to each tester that accepts a test. So it's important to note that any option you select here, any information you provide on how to access your content is only shown to testers in the final step, just before they're about to test, and only after they've accepted the NDA and all the terms. It's kept confidential until the last minute. The next step is boosters. So this is an optional step, but it allows you to increase the reward amount per tester or even offer a prize giveaway as an incentive for testers to provide more detailed feedback. So, for example, we can see here that the reward per tester is currently 370. We could boost this by $2, and this now means that each tester will be getting 570 instead. So this can be useful for high volume tests when you need to attract lots and lots of people. Having a slightly increased reward amount can help deliver that. Price boosts are great for maybe smaller tests where you require more detailed feedback. So, for example, you could set a prize budget of $400. You could set that as two prizes. That would then issue the top two testers that provide the best feedback. We would award them with $200, and that prize would be promoted within the test, so testers can see, if I make the effort here and I really give some really solid feedback, then I'm in for a chance of winning part of this prize. So which one you select, if any, is up to you. You can do both, you can do one, or you can select no boost needed. And lastly, we can check the summary page to make sure you're happy with everything that you've entered so far, and that everything is correct. You can also see a test invite preview. So this is exactly how your test will be presented to testers once they're invited. And you can click on this tile here and review the test description, the game description, screenshots that you've added. So you get an overview of exactly how they will see things. You can even go through the steps of accepting the test to see exactly what testers will see. So if we click accept here, you can see the pop-up confidentiality message they get with link through to the NDA. And then only once they've accepted that, they'll be given access to any install instructions and download instructions and links and things to your files. So you can see only at that final point are they given access. So this is kind of one final check that to make sure you're happy with everything that you've submitted. And once you're ready to go, you can click submit for approval here. And that's basically your job done at that point. We will then review your test, generally within 24 hours, and start the test on the date that you've selected. So once your test starts, you'll be eager to see your feedback, and you can do so live as it comes in. So you don't need to wait until your test is finished. So to see your test as it's running, you can go to the home page and click View Active Tests here. This will load a test report up, and you'll see some initial stats at the top here. So you'll be able to see how many tests you've booked, how many testers have currently accepted that test. You'll be able to see how many testers are currently testing, which means they've accepted, just haven't finished yet. Uh, Declined is how many testers we've invited, but they've declined to do the test. And they'll share a reason for declining. It's normally it wasn't their type of game or wasn't of interest to them. And we share those reasons with you. So you can click here, view of word cloud of comments used, or you can click through and see all the responses in full. So sometimes there's useful information in there. We share it with you either way. And then cancelled means they started the test. They after accepting it, they started it, but they backed out for some reason. They decided they needed to cancel. Now that could be a technical reason. For example, there was a bug they couldn't get past, or it could just be they couldn't get into the game and they decided they didn't want to finish the test. Again, we ask the reasons why they cancelled, and we share that with you. And then failed means they started the test, but they timed out. They didn't submit their feedback within the time limit that we give them. Generally we will replace those testers with a new tester, but we do still ask them why they failed to complete within the time, so you can see if there were any reasons behind that. Ultimately, from your point of view, you will only pay for fully completed tests. So if any testers drop out halfway through or they don't submit all their feedback, then we don't reward them and we don't charge you, and we'll replace them with a new tester. So ultimately, if you booked 250 tests, for example, you'll have 250 completions. And if a test is running, you'll be able to see how many slots are currently available, and how close it is to finishing up. So that's your initial stats for the test, so you can see how it's progressing. Under that, you'll be able to see any responses to your questions that you asked. And here we can see a simple question here: did you play the tutorial? We can see by hovering over these elements here precisely how many did. So here, 62% said yes. So it's very quick and easy to see precise stats, no matter how big the test was, and you can see exactly how people have responded. If you had a open text question where they could type anything they liked, then we'll show you initially a word cloud like this that shows key phrases and words that were mentioned a lot by testers. And you can see, so even if your test was, thousands of people, you can quickly see the key phrases that were being mentioned. If you see something that you want to understand more, why they're talking about the enemies, for example, you can just click on a phrase and it will load up the comments in full. Any comments that contain that word, you'll be able to read through. You'll also see the general sentiment of those comments, and you'll be able to see the demographic profile of that tester as well. If you see any feedback that's particularly useful to you that you're really thankful for, we've also got this option here as well where you can tip that tester. So if you select that option, you can select one of the messages and you can click tip tester. And that will basically award that tester with some bonus XP. And we rank all of our testers with XP. So the more XP they earn, the more tests they get invited to, and the more rewards they can earn. So it's a nice way of saying thanks to testers that have gone above and beyond for your test. You can, if you wish, also tip a monetary amount by selecting one of these options here, and that will deduct that amount from your balance and issue it to a tester. So again, it's a nice optional extra that you can decide to do for those special testers. You can also filter all your comments by sentiment if you wish. So if we click all responses, that will show every response that you got in full. But you may just want to look at the positive and maybe the neutral comments. So if we click apply filter, we'll now be able to view those specific ones. And you can filter by country, gender, age, or search specific words if you wish. You can also view the amount of times each phrase was used. So if we click on view phrases here, we can see the count for each phrase and the general sentiment for each one. As we scroll through the rest of the feedback, we can see other multiple choice questions that were asked, and how they're displayed will depend on how many options there were to select from. And we'll see word clouds for any open text questions. So after the feedback and the questionnaire section, you'll then be able to review data points. You'll only see this section if you integrated the API, because we need that to be able to track what players are doing in the game. But if you have this integrated, you'll be able to hover over any of these and see how much times each of these data points were triggered. So we can see here the player was killed by a duck. We can see 32 players out of, I think it was 250, were killed, and because data points can be triggered more than once, you get a total amount as well. So you can see nearly twice each those players were getting killed by this duck. So you can scroll through here. Setting up data points is up to you what you track and which actions that you want to trigger data points. But here you can see there's around 100 data points for this game, and you can hover over any of these to get the specific numbers. So after the data points, you'll be able to see the demographic breakdown of the testers that took part. So you'll be able to see an age profile of the testers. You'll be able to see the gender split. You'll be able to see the countries that the testers were from. You'll be able to see their genre interests, and you can expand this to look at all their subgenres. You'll be able to see the gaming devices that they have available to them, if they're PC players, are they also console players, for example. You'll be able to see anything from their profile, which includes the languages that those testers speak, the type of gamer they are, the gaming preferences, the hours they game per week, and their internet speed. So everything that we looked at in the demographic filters, we share with you for every tester. Now, you don't need the API for any of this. We'll share the demographic information with every test that you run with us. So that has the added benefit that you don't need to ask testers anything about themselves or where they're from or the type of games they like, because we know all that already and we share it with you in your reports. So one extra feature of our reports is it allows you to start to understand why testers have answered specific questions the way they have. So if we find a question about purchasing, so here, would you consider purchasing this game when it's released? We can hover over this and see that 36% said yes, they would. So we want to understand that group a little bit more and why they're saying yes. How are they answering other questions differently from other people, maybe? All we've got to do is click on that part of the charts, and you can see it loads it up into the filter over here. So then if I click apply filter, that's going to load a side-by-side comparison with global data on the left versus filter data on the right. So this column here is everyone that said yes they would purchase the game at release versus everyone that took part in the test on the left. So now you can scroll through the reports and you can make easy side-by-side comparisons and see, is there any key differences between this group and the reason why they were saying yes versus everyone else. And you may have a question about pricing. This test here has price brackets here. You can see that the group that said they would purchase the game were willing to spend more for the game generally than the group globally. So that can really help you when you're making pricing decisions. So you can filter anything, you can select any elements, you can scroll down, you can look at the data points, you can see how those players played the game differently. You can scroll down to the demographics to see how the groups of players were different, where they were from, and their ages and their genders. You can see if there's any difference there. So you can start to really understand who that audience is and why they're different from everyone else. So the reports you can be accessed in our platform. However, if you wish, you can export them to Excel by clicking here or PDF. So how you access your data is up to you. Our platform's been designed to make it as simple and quick as possible to understand the data that you're seeing, especially when you're testing at high volumes. However, if you wish to export and do your own thing, then you can. Your reports will never disappear. They'll always be saved on the platform, so you can log in at any point. If we go to tests and click ended, you'll see a list of any previous tests that you've run. You'll be able to go in and run filters on those at any point. Once the test is finished and wrapped up, you may be starting to think about your next test. To do so, you can load a previous one that's ended and simply clone it by clicking on this button here. That will make the process really simple. You can go in, you can just make any edits or tweaks that you need to and resubmit that test and be testing again within a matter of hours if you need to. So it's very quick once you've done that first test. If you need to run follow-up tests, you can simply clone, edit and resubmit. It's very quick and simple. So at this point you might be thinking about running a test but wondering how much it's going to cost. Well, if you go to our website, all our pricing is upfront and transparent from there. If you click on pricing at the top, it will take you down to our price calculators below where you can work out the price of any test upfront. And here we can see for 100 testers and a half an hour test asking 5 questions, up to 100 data points, will cost just under $5 per tester. So you can tweak these if you wish. So if we say want to double the number of questions to 10, we can see the cost per tester has increased slightly. And the reason for that is we like to reward testers a slightly higher amount if we're asking for more of their time. You do get a discount for scaling up the test. So you can see here for 100 testers, if I increase this bar here, the cost per tester does go down. So for bigger tests, you get an automated discount built in as well. We also have acquisition tests, which are more for driving traffic to your game. If you're more interested in getting players to discover your game and play it for a set amount of time, and less interested about feedback, then you can select one of these. These start from around $3 per tester. It's more of a form of marketing than testing, as it will drive testers to your game and get them to experience it for a minimum set time. You have the added bonus of getting some feedback off the back of those tests as well. Technically, they're exactly the same as a normal test, they're just higher volume basically. So there's no added extras or hidden costs on top of this. This is the full and final amount that you would pay. There's no contracts, there's no minimum spends. So our platform is designed to use this when you need to. And when you don't, if you need to have a break, then that's absolutely fine. If you decide to create an account, then you also get $100 credit for free. So you can try us. That gets you around 20 testers for free. So you could try the platform and check that you're happy with the reports and how everything is presented before you decide to scale things up. You can sign up and create an account here. It's free to do. That will then take you to this page here where you can play around and practice setting up tests. Until you actually submit, nothing is shared externally with any testers, and you won't be charged anything until that point. So we encourage you to create an account and play around and make sure that you're comfortable with how everything works. And of course, if you have any questions, please reach out. We're happy to answer any questions or jump on any calls with anyone. Please just reach out if you need any support. We're here and happy to help. But otherwise, thank you for watching. I hope you found that useful, and we hope to be testing your game soon. Thank you.